Welcome to Sanctified and Stilettos, the podcast where save and sexy intersect, and where we delve into faith, feminine, and fearless conversations. Of course, I'm your host, Dr. Heather E. Burton, and today, you all, I'm so excited. Y'all know I'm always excited about every show, but I'm excited about this one because this is one of those conversations that sparks curiosity. Sometimes couple side eyes happen in the congregation, outside of the congregation, and there's always a whole lot of assumptions. And so what are we talking about? We're talking about pastoring and dating. What does it mean to balance faith, dating, and leading a congregation? So how do we do this? What does dating even look like when people see you as a spiritual leader first and then a person second? So today I have some great people with us. If you're from Cleveland, you are familiar with these two guests. They are pastors within the city of Cleveland that are well known. And guess what, y'all? They single. Now let me say this. Don't try to send me a DM or contact me to get their phone numbers or anything, because I'm not doing that. This is not a dating show. We talk about pastoring and dating, all right? So this is what I need y'all to understand. But I'm going to let you meet our guest today. And today we have Pastor David Cobb with us.
Hello.
And we have Pastor Courtney Jenkins.
Yes.
So, Pastor Cobb.
Yes.
Tell us just a little bit about yourself.
All right. I'm Pastor David Cobb, pastor of the Emanuel Baptist Church right here in Cleveland, Ohio, 7901 Quincy Avenue.
You know, pastors always got to get a church address.
Gotta do it.
It don't matter where you go, they got to get an address because y'all trying to get some visitors.
There you go. So we go ahead and put that in there. I've been there now, be 19 years in March. And so I'm still excited about pastoring, still excited about God. And, of course, look, here's my plug. When you get a chance, come by and see us.
See, I told y'all it was going to happen. I told you it would be the address to get visitors. So, Pastor Jenkins.
Yes, Courtney Clayton Jenkins. I am senior pastor and teacher of South Euclid United Church of Christ in South Euclid, Ohio. 4217 Bluestone Road, but we have a pretty robust online ministry. So whether you're here or there, when you're here, you're home.
Yeah.
And so I have been pastoring South Euclid for 15 years, and it has been a joy. We really don't even use the word church as much as we use the word sacred community. I think when we hear the word church, it comes with a lot of assumptions and a lot of trauma. And so over the last couple of years, we've really redirected our language. People know we're a church, but by sacred community, and I think it'll connect to this conversation, we believe every life matters who walks through our door. We choose to see you as a person and someone who's on a long walk with God. So super excited for such a spicy conversation
Yes,
on
so
today.
am
Hope
I.
my mama's not watching. Amen.
So am I. Now this is Sanctified and Stilettos,
Yes.
so we're going to keep it sanctified.
Amen.
We ain't gonna get too far
I'm in a
out
liberal
there.
denomination. Amen. Praise the Lord. We'll keep it sanctified.
Right.
Come on.
Yeah, you're right. You're in a liberal
I am.
denomination.
I'm in a liberal denomination. All right.
Yes, I ain't going to say,
Amen.
some of us still part of
Amen.
National Missionary Baptist Convention.
Amen. I understand. I'm going to get nobody in trouble. It's
Right.
okay.
But it's funny because I always laugh. I was like, one day they're going to put me out of NBCA. I'm waiting on my, what do you call it, my expulsion letter.
Yeah.
For some of the things that I say, the thoughts. But this is a conversation that we often don't talk about.
Yeah.
And one, we put pastors on a pedestal. So you all know that. I know it's hard. I remember on another podcast, I talked about this, about newscasters being celebrities.
Yeah.
And the reality is pastors are celebrities. You don't want to think about it in that limelight.
True.
And it's not that you're up performing and it's
Yeah.
not that you're doing anything, but in terms of status, when we talk about status, it puts you in a different category.
Absolutely.
So how do you manage even that category or that thought? Do you think of yourself as being separate? Do you think of yourself as being different, especially when we talk about celebrity or, and I don't want to say set apart, because we know you're set apart. You called by God to preach the gospel and pastor, so we know you set apart. We know you sanctified, saved, and redeemed.
Yes.
But when you think from the perspective of celebrity, the perspective of being different from your congregation.
I would say for me, I don't consider myself a celebrity, but I do understand that all eyes are watching, and they watch everything. They watch who comes to preach. They watch what do I do, how I move, what happens in the congregation. So I do understand that all eyes are watching, and they're seeing how I respond, what do I do. And so I take that to heart, even when I'm out. I understand even when I'm around people in my congregation, or people in the congregation see me, I have to be on. Mm-hmm. And so whether I like it or not, that's just the way people see it. So not necessarily celebrity, but definitely know that all the time, especially when I'm around the people, there's, for me, this idea in my mind, okay, I got to be on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would completely resonate with that. The language I would use would be around, I'm a public figure. I understand that I live a public life, that I am a public leader, not just to my congregation and not just in a city, but even beyond that. It's interesting. I was having a conversation with my son recently, who's 11, and I was like, "Do you know what mom does?" And he was like, "Yeah, you preach." And I'm like, "No, like let's really talk about what that means and how I have an obligation to protect you, but you also have an obligation to protect me." And that sense of like what we do publicly, how we interact publicly, matters. We're never going to be fake or phony. I'm not asking you to be inauthentic. And the same with me. But I will say that as I've matured in ministry, I prided myself earlier on my transparency. And now I think because my congregation has grown, my status has grown, I'm more in a lane of I am absolutely transparent. I think it's hallmark to my ministry, but I also deeply protect my privacy. Because I share so much of myself. And so, yes, that all eyes on you, it is difficult and it can, your awareness to it can wear off, which can be dangerous.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. But I think it's a public figure, but I have to protect my privacy because I really am an introvert. My job requires me to be extroverted. So
and I don't think many people understand that, is that, because I tell people that, and I said, but my jobs have always required me to be extrovert. When you're an actress, when you're modeling, you're required to be on all the time, and especially if you're out in public. And so, but you said something, public figure, and I love that language of, of public figure. How do you navigate being this public figure and separating the private from the public?
I think it comes down to healthy boundaries. It's something I've preached about. I've done a whole sermon series on healthy boundaries. And boundaries is not something we talk about in the church very often. And ironically, my sermon for this coming Sunday is on church hurt. And how a lack of boundaries is often what causes that, right? And so I think that a pastor has to have a healthy self-awareness of who they are, what their boundaries are. And in my context in particular, I am not a micromanager of people's lives. Pastoring for me is an opportunity to get people to think about who God is, how Christ is calling them. It's not my role, my job to be in your home, in your bedroom, judging what's happening there. Is to provide, as I like to say, I am a facilitator of divine conversation. And so when you talk about what's that line, I've had to learn, when I'm home, I want to be home. When I'm off, I want to be off. And I've had to say no to things that would require me to be on when I know good and well I am not in the mood. Right? Like I don't want to do anything pastoral on Friday night. Respectfully, like I don't. I want to hang out. I want to do what I like to do.
Yes.
And so, Pastor, would you? No. No.
But that's okay. That's being strong because often you don't set boundaries, and then when you don't set those boundaries, everything is happening. You go into this, you go into that, and I don't think many people understand that and understand the role of pastoring. And if you allow it, you will be busy 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Absolutely.
Because your congregation is in need 24 hours, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And I was getting ready to say, exactly that, the whole reteaching, because when I first came, I wanted to be super pastor because, and I didn't know what that was, but so I just made it up and I said, oh, well, if you need me, let me give you my phone number and all of this kind of stuff. And over the years, I've had to do some reteaching and setting boundaries and even explaining, because again, I set this precedence, and one of the things I would tell anyone else going into pastorate, be careful what you start, because when you start something, that becomes, especially over time, it becomes an expectation. And that was one of the things now that I am just getting to the point, I'm going to say, in the last 5 to 7 years, where I've gotten to the point where I've learned how to set boundaries. And I had to as well, is learn that and realize, no, you can't be everything for everybody. And coming to that conclusion helped me so much. And but there still is, there are those people where I have to go back and say, oh, no, I can't do this. Or I have to remind myself, go ahead. It's all right to say no. And it's not a bad thing. No is a complete sentence.
And which I always joke. My therapist told me I had a problem with saying no. So she gave me a tagline to use with my no, because I always thought I had to explain. Well, let me say this. I didn't think I had to explain. I just have this habit of explaining. And so in that, by the time I finished explaining, I talked myself into a yes. Of course. So she was like, no, I need you to start saying, no, I don't have the capacity. And so it works wonders for me. Like, some people are good with just saying no and setting the boundaries with a solid no. Not me. I'm like, no. And then the church members are, church members are the ones that get you. And they be like, and they're like, well, and I just.
So. But I would add to that, because part of it is we are in a role that if we cannot gather people, if we cannot walk with groups of people, then we just taking a walk. So it is a healthy balance. But as you talk about capacity, it also leads to effectiveness. And so in this particular context, it's capacity, in my case, for my church, it's capacity as a single mother. And then it is also capacity for a private life and or a dating life, and whatever that might look like. And really being clear that, at least for me, I refuse to let this eat me alive. I will not. God did not. Christ died. I was not asked to do so, right? To give up of my life, but not to die doing this. And many of people will lose their life trying to be everywhere.
And you just can't do it.
No.
I said this to a friend yesterday. I said, one thing that I've learned is people are going to figure it out when I die, so I'm going to let them figure it out while I'm alive. There you go. There you go. Because you'll get it. Now, speaking of boundaries. The reason that we're here. What are the boundaries in terms of dating as it relates to your congregation? Do you date from the congregation?
Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not.
Well, let me jump in.
That was real quick.
And I'll tell you, if there would be a caveat, I will tell you how I handle that. So, number one, we have at South Euclid a dating and monogamy policy for our leaders.
Tell me more.
Everyone must sign it at the top of every year. If you are a leader in this church, no one's going to respect you if you moving around the congregation. So if you're a member of my congregation and you are a leader, now we talking about like real certified, like.
So when you say leader, what level?
Primarily, I'm referring to if you are on my staff, and if you are a deacon or you are clergy. So I haven't had an issue per se with the person who's over the food ministry. You get where I'm coming from, right? But everybody knows my expectation and standards. So let's be clear. If there is someone within this congregation that you want to date, and I would imagine if that was the case for me, I don't anticipate it, but anything could happen. I would do the same. You're required to come talk to me before you do. And I also want to say these policies exist because there are stories behind why they exist. They don't just exist.
And that's what I was going to ask, because typically when a policy is created, it's created because something happened prior to make the need for the policy.
And when let me choose my words wisely, when someone was found dating multiple people in my congregation and at the same time.
Oh, that's right.
No one is going to respect you, and no one's going to respect me. Now, I have had instances where what happens is a deacon in my congregation, came to me and said, "Hey, I really want to date this person, and this is our agreement. You get one opportunity in this congregation. So if this is your one person, go for it. And if it works, by all means. If it does not work, you're going to have to find somebody else outside of here, because I will not allow leaders to abuse their power. These are power structures, okay? And so let me be clear that one of the people who has come to me and done that is now married to that person that they felt called to. So it worked out, and it worked out well, right? They have a child, and life has moved on. But there has to, it is my job to protect the sheep, not to expose them to people who lack boundaries and everything that walks by that you like. You want to dibble and dabble in.
So you might need to do a training class for some other pastors to understand how to handle their leaders within the church. Because, it's interesting, and we often talk about the church operating like a business, church being a business, but not wanting to operate like a business. Yeah. And most companies, most businesses have those policies in place. I'm not going to get off into a tangent about what happened in Michigan, but these policies are in place.
But to that degree, if you are a leader like a deacon, for example, there's one expectation. But here's the thing. You work on my staff, and you break somebody's heart. Because part of the conversation, not to be repeated with my son, was, this won't be Heartbreak Hotel, okay? Is... now we're facing perhaps sexual harassment charges. It's not just a relationship. These are positions of power. So I don't anticipate dating anyone in my congregation. I think if that were to occur, and I just say if because I've lived long enough at this point, you say
right, you say if.
Then Lord will be like, let's test you in 2 weeks. Right? Somebody come
we're going to bring them right on in.
That's right. But I would have to sit down with some group of leaders and apply the same standard I have for them. Would have to apply for me, and it is you get one opportunity, right? And so
you're gonna have to be prayed. Because I think that's great though.
And I got to be willing to risk something. I've got to be willing to risk something.
Because especially now, here's the thing: especially one opportunity.
So
it's one thing to have the clause or have the policy to say that you can date, but you need to be aware of this. It's different when it's one opportunity because you cannot risk messing up within the body of Christ.
Right. So if y'all break up, y'all don't work out, ain't no problem. Right. But don't be coming back a year later like, now see that now on the third row. So no. You gonna have to leave or they gonna have to leave.
Gonna have to leave.
But I'm not doing it.
No, and I was getting ready to say because my divorce is recent, and so no, that was kind of in my mind. Not that we have a policy, even though I'll definitely take that policy and everything else you got. I'll take all of that and all of that right stuff.
Pastor Jenkins needs to do a whole training for some
No, that's good. Yeah. But just the wisdom of it. No, don't, because in my mind, if something goes wrong. Especially when you're talking about church, when you're talking about work, if something goes wrong, if it doesn't work out, let me say it that way. If it doesn't work out, yes, both of you are there together, and again, at some point, somebody's going to have to leave. So, or the chances of that is going to be pretty high. So, I definitely see that, I understand that, and that's the reason for me. There was the hesitancy of even going there, especially with a member of my congregation.
And I would add to, while I wrote that policy, it is actually, as the circumstance unfolded at my church that needed to be addressed, I found myself studying the story of Eli. Now, everybody focused on Eli and Hannah when she praying. Right. But read into chapter 2, Eli's sons were having sex with women in the church. And the glory of the Lord left the temple. So my policy exists because the glory of the Lord will not leave this temple. Like it's not. So I need you to hear it's the business side. It absolutely is. I'm running a business and I'm just one of those people like my business is God's business and I'm running that. It is also the biblical business of here are where the consequences biblically occurred and Eli was unwilling to rein his sons in. That's the issue. So I ain't Eli.
Right.
I'm gonna rein in. You understand?
Great.
Very good.
And I would say that also goes to if you're dating somebody and bringing them to church.
Oh, come on.
And this is Miss So-and-so, and we're dating right now. And then a month later, this is Miss So-and-so, and we're dating. And then just what we were talking about, after a while, the church begins to lose, in my mind, they lose respect because like, Pastor, can you make a choice or something like that?
And I think you have to be cognizant and careful of that, especially when you're in a leadership position. I've never I think once I brought somebody to church with me. And that was when I was in my 20s.
Exactly. And now you would be like,
I'd be like, nope, I'm good. And then I used to joke, because I was engaged, I'm like, nope, unless you my husband, then you can come to church. You ain't coming to fiance. You ain't coming to fiance.
Okay.
But I think because you are, and people don't realize the fishbowl. Reverend once said this to me, you're a fish in a fishbowl. And whether you want to accept it or not, when people are looking, they watching everything.
They are.
So how do you manage dating? I mean, how do y'all even date when everybody got eyes on you?
Well, I would say for me, one of the things that it's somebody that I'm talking to. I go and I let them know, hey, would you like to go out? We go out. I tend to pick places that are not really frequent by my congregation.
We eat a lot of the international food. Go ahead.
and then the other thing is just in that, because again, you do have to go out, you have to talk to people, you got to get to know them, and there's a good chance that this may not lead to anything further than just going out. And so you don't need everybody else kind of in your business and that type of thing. So I try my best as much as I can to stay away. I mean, every now and then I may see somebody, and that's going to happen because Cleveland's small and all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, I tend to go where I know that most of them probably don't frequent.
Yeah, go far away. Go far away.
For me, I would say it's twofold. Number one, I am not particularly interested that if dating, so I too am recently divorced, but if dating, I am not interested in dating in this city.
Yeah, me either.
For lots of reasons. Listen, like,
I don't do it.
I'm definitely on vacation on the road. Not on the road, I shouldn't say that. That come out wrong. And I guess.
On the road can be a turn on.
But I mean that in the sense of I really am. I don't even think, honestly, I don't think I have capacity. Let's go back to the word you use, to maintain a present relationship under my current situation and circumstance. So for me, dating has been, I'm traveling, and so in that case, like I mean, as an example, I went on a solo cruise for Thanksgiving this year. My son was with his father. I went on a solo cruise, and at night I went out on the cruise and had a good time. And it's so for me, it was, am I interested in perhaps meeting someone? I'm open to it. Like I'm not going to act like I'm not, right? But I know that for me that's number one. Number two, I do require a non-disclosure agreement, and that is where my personal life comes into play. I think I am a female pastor, and so while people may not like that you bring somebody different every month, right? They're gonna give you, pastor out there trying to find somebody. If I bring somebody different every month,
you're gonna have a new Google every month.
Yeah. They using the word they call Carrie Bryant. You know what I'm saying? So it's like no. But I require that because, and I have used it because I want my privacy.
Yes.
It matters to me, and I need you to hear, I also think it was a big part of coming into my grown woman era. These are my boundaries.
So tell me, how did you come up with the decision to have an NDA?
Well, though I don't consider myself a celebrity, I do know that celebrities keep NDAs at the door. So that's number one, right? Like that, like you go to a celebrity party, NDAs at the door.
Yeah.
You sign. It's number one. Number two, I was violated in trust in my own home. So now every person who works for me personally and my personal friend group, you want to have, and this friend group, right? A personal relationship with me, and I'd like to not be pastoral in your presence. You're going to sign the document. And there are consequences for you running your mouth, because let's go back to how we started. If I am a public figure, I have a lot to lose. And it's not just me. I have a whole congregation. I'm not interested in embarrassing them. I'm not interested in course correction. And so this is around when people violate you, and in particular in your own home, right?
Yes.
So if this is my one place of sanctuary,
Right.
and someone who's in my home, working in my home, then goes out and begins to say whatever they think is happening in my home, that becomes an issue. And so for me, it became a matter of, if you're interested in knowing me beyond my role and title, this is what's required to do that. You can do that. You cannot do that.
Sorry, y'all. It was a sad thing. I don't know what happened, but
yeah. And you can, and I'm not offended either way. And I hope you're not offended by my asking. But these are my boundaries, and I'm mature enough. I'm confident enough. This is what comes with me at this level, this age, this stage. You want to get with it, get with it. You don't want to get with it, it ain't no problem. But
so, how do you ask to sign an NDA?
I think it's a conversation of, is this something that's interested in going beyond an initial get to know each other? Like, no, I'm not on the first date. Like, hey, I want to get the calamari. I want to know. Yeah, exactly.
Calamari.
Yeah. I will say that that the men that I have engaged with it have found it like, yo, that's like, they like that.
Yeah, because I think, you most people think of NDA and they think, oh, well, what are they doing? They must not be doing it.
Yeah.
But no, it's a protection. And I remember I was telling my niece, I said, here's the thing about dating. You date somebody who has just as much to lose as you do.
Come on.
Because if they don't have anything to lose, they will not respect the position that you're in.
That's right.
And so I think when you say an NDA, and especially depending on who it is, they like, oh, well, I'm protected too. So come on, let's sign this together.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so and I like I said, the few men that I have engaged with it around, just in general, it has been well received. It has been really a sign of like, I like this, right? Because we not. I have no time for games,
right?
And so if this is something that we're interested in, let's see where that takes us. But we're at a point now for me where I'm trying to figure out, is this more than just getting to know each other and whatever that looks like? Yeah.
So, what does a pastor look for in companionship? What y'all want out there in these streets?
These streets is rough.
Well, let's start there. The streets are rough.
Fecal matter in the dating pool. Just E. coli.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But I think for me, one of the things that, and I just gave it some thought. One of the things is clarity. And what I mean by that is clear expectations. What are you looking for? That type of thing. I would also think reciprocity. Like, am I more invested than this person is? The other piece, or the other part is peace. Like, am I tense, or is it rough every time we're together? That type of thing. I would also say, as far as, am I able to be myself? I would also say that. And then as I'm moving along in the relationship, if I was talking to another pastor, or I've given another pastor advice, would I be following? Am I following that same advice right now? And so when you say, what are you looking for? Yeah, you're definitely attracted to the person, but I guess I've come to understand that it goes further than just the attraction, but it's also where's the clarity, where's the reciprocity, where is the peace at? That whole idea, and then even more, does this person even respect my calling? Do they respect who I am? Or is me being a pastor a problem? Because again, there are little signs that you see along the way, and I guess as you just said, we don't have time to play games anymore. So once you see those things, don't just ignore them and go, oh, this doesn't mean anything. So when I say what I'm looking for, that's kind of where I'm at.
I would say for me, number one, I want a man who's secure, knows who he is, knows what he wants, is going after something in his own life that is unrelated to me and to home. So something in terms of a career, driven, if you will. I'm definitely looking for someone with emotional maturity. My job, emotional intelligence. My job is demanding, and so the ability to understand the complexity of what I do, that there are parts of my work that I can't share because I have a confidentiality ordination vow, so I can't share. So I'm looking for that, and I a man for whom his faith and spirituality is important to him, matters to me, and I have a pretty wide understanding of what that means. So I'm not talking about fitting very neatly checked boxes, but he respects the spirit world. He respects the spirit realm and the work that I do. And to be quite honest, I'm also looking for a man who I feel, as I move about, is equally yoked in terms of, I'm just being honest, like public image. You know, I'm being honest here. You know your main fork from your salad fork. You know, right, that when we go to certain steakhouses, we're not asking for A1. Because you don't get A1, okay, at the Capitol Grill.
All right.
Or you know that there's more than just the Capitol Grill in Cleveland. There's Morton.
There's Morton.
You know what I'm saying? You know, there's
Marble Room.
Listen, that's right. There's a lot of places, right? And so I think that I'm being honest in that I find those types of things attractive. And ain't nothing wrong with a well-groomed man. I think we can all agree on that. I'm just saying, like, he know how to put it together. A well-groomed man ain't nothing like a well-groomed man. Yeah, man, he look good, he smell good, he walk good. I'm here for it.
Right, that's what I said. I said sometimes looks don't even, you ain't even got to be all
that, man, but you can put it together. Come on.
Come on, Pastor Jenkins.
Come on.
So look, when do you all tell people you a pastor? Date 1, date 2, date 3? Or you think they most, and I guess that's probably it, is that most people know when they meet you that's what you already do.
I will say that as I moved through my divorce and my colleagues learned I was single, we need not. They know what I do, right? Okay, because they're my colleagues, right? When I am out and traveling, I don't often lead with that. I will either lead with, I'm an executive director of a nonprofit, because I am. Or I am really into film, and I make spiritual documentaries. And so sometimes I lean into the film piece. I think it depends on the context, the place, the space. And I'm going to be honest, too, because we're not at NDAs yet and whatnot. I'm not interested in you Googling my name. I'm just being honest, because I'm still protecting my privacy. So I think there are questions. It has not been an issue either way. Either the relationship hasn't gotten to a place where that's necessary to reveal, or you knew that coming in, that's what it was, right? Because as you mentioned and I mentioned, there is now a wave like never before of clergy who are going through divorce. It's not like it used to be in the 50s and 60s. And I actually believe we're getting ready to see an even larger wave just in private conversations with colleagues and things of that nature. So this is something the church is going to have to learn to address. And it is something that pastors really don't have. We don't have a lot of colleagues who, hear me to a degree, can give you counsel on this. So when I started going through my divorce, I think, I remember the night I started thinking like, oh, I don't think this is going to work. And I was like, so who do I know that's divorced? And I knew 2 men. I knew Howard John Wesley and I knew Delman Coates, but I didn't know them like personally. And then I was like, oh, I don't know any women. And then I learned about Millicent Hunter, but she kind of got immediately remarried, not immediately, but within a very short window of time. So that's not really out there. Now, do I know women who've been single all along? Yes. My own pastor was single all along. So, but I will say my pastor, when I was in college, started dating another public figure. They dated maybe for a year or two, her and that public figure. But in this moment, it's occurring to me that I did see a woman at a particular point navigate a public relationship, wasn't secret or shy about it, but I don't think it could have been hidden because they were both public figures at that point.
I think for me at the time, my pastor had been divorced and he had went through it. And so he kind of, praise God, he walked me through what to say, do not do this, and those type of things. And it was someone I could lean in and he could help me with that so that I could know how to navigate during that time. But I really, really appreciated that, and I appreciate the wisdom that I got from that. But in that, even afterwards, again, just that wisdom and telling me certain things and explaining to me not just the how, but the why was so important during that time. I just want to,
If I could just add one thing, I want to clarify why I don't share up front when it is someone who is not familiar. Because just like I said with the word church, a lot of assumptions are made. Because, you could be a pastor, but like, what kind of pastor are you, right? Are you like tearing at the altar, like we gonna be in church all night kind of pastor? Are you a legalistic type of pastor? You a grace type of pastor? Are you, is your church only Sundays, or I go to work every single day? Like I go into an office. I got 2 offices. Like, you get where I'm coming from? So I say that to say that I also want to hear, where is that person in their understanding of the role? Because there have been time early on where like a man would hear that and immediately be like, oh no. And I'm like, well, I ain't that kind of pastor, but it's all good, right? So I just say that to say that's a lot of what it is. I'm not, if we're interested in more than a pastoral relationship, then I'm not interested in trying to convince you. Either you're going to like me, and she happens to be a pastor, or, right, but people come with assumptions because of white evangelicalism. Some people don't even feel women should be pastors, so you might be dealing and navigating that. And so I'm saying it can't just be, I'm a pastor, you want to go bowling. It really has to be a deeper conversation around, right? Like, so what does that mean to you? And let me tell you what that means for me.
Most of the ladies that I've talked to, they already knew I was a pastor. But then the other thing is just what you just said. There are these assumptions that they have about what dating is going to be like and all of this kind of stuff. And even the whole idea of I'm going to be the first lady. And it's like, okay, can you get to know David first?
Come on.
And then let's talk about the Reverend. So that piece is the part that's so hard to navigate sometimes, because they want to go right into the church piece, and I'm like, but what about me? And that's where earlier I was talking about the whole clarity piece. Are you just, I want to get to know, I want this position or the power or whatever, or do you really want to get to know me?
If they knew what we knew, they wouldn't be trying.
No. Right. Well, I think it's interesting because as a man, there is a culture of women who are raised to revere the first lady position, and so they run towards, right? In my role, they like, am I supposed to be a first gentleman? I don't know. Like, I don't think we're having those conversations. But it's a totally different, they're trying to figure out, well, where do I fall? And what is the expectation? And so those are assumptions and barriers. So,
And I was going to say, and I think that's the difference that we often don't talk about, is the gender difference when it comes to women in ministry, women pastors versus men pastors. And you said it earlier. Even I remember one of my mentors said to me, she said, you can't date like a man. Facts. You just cannot date like a man because your reputation would be completely different.
That's right.
And that's even if you're not sleeping with them.
That's right.
But if you are going out with 1 and 2 and 3, then it's going to look completely different than when a man does it.
Absolutely.
And I think that happens very often. Like I shared with somebody, is that the one thing that folks don't think about is me going as a guest minister in churches, is that unless I'm going to a church that has a female pastor, I can't change in their office.
I hear you.
I have to go dressed. I have to be ready. And if I sweat, I got to hope that there's a bathroom that I can go to and change where I'm not going to be bothered by the entire congregation. But people don't think about that difference. And so I think that also impacts how we date. and especially from a woman's lens, because I used to joke too, is that what happens with men is, like you said, there's that group of women who are ready to take on the identity, the role of being first lady, leading lady, and being there. Men don't have that perspective. Men don't even understand when you say, I'm a minister, when you say I'm a pastor, they have no idea. It's different. But think about you in terms of women. How do you get beyond everybody wanting to be first lady?
Well, one of the ways I get beyond. Oh, yeah. That's what I was saying. First of all, one, don't date in the congregation. That's one way you stop that. The other thing is, again, taking your time to get to know the person and allowing the person to get to know you, not what you do, who you are. I think that is the biggest piece that if I've learned anything now, it's that piece, because it was like maybe first or second date. Bam, we already talking about church and roles and all of this kind of stuff. And then I was like, well, what about me? You know, and that type of piece. And then, and also as you go along, let's see, can David and Sue, jail first, and then let's get to these other conversations of what that would look like. But I hadn't gotten that far.
Is it difficult being a pastor and dating?
Oh, I think it is. I think it is. Let me also just say, I am just really content right now in my life. I think that, and it's so funny. I would say it's not that I'm content. This is what I said the other day in my journal. I am so content with how things are falling in place. That's different. It's not that everything is great. I don't think it's that. Things are actually quite chaotic right now. But I am so content that I can see it's all not falling out of place. It's falling into place uncomfortably. So it is difficult. I also think that in my case in particular, I actually never thought I would have gotten married. I thought I was going to be single and in ministry, so it would have been interesting to have had this conversation. If that had been my reality, and then of course I was married and then I got divorced, and so now I'm kind of back in this space. But I have such deeply fulfilling personal relationships in my life. Certainly they don't check my sexual boxes, but they certainly check my intimacy boxes, my companionship boxes, my boxes around that space to just be me, right? And to not have to be on. And my friend group is rather fiercely protective of that space, because they know I don't get that everywhere, and that there have been places prior to things like NDAs where those spaces were abused, right? And so it's hard, it's difficult, but I think that you have to internally be in a place where that's what you're ready to engage with. And I don't know when this will air, but there's currently a kerfuffle unfolding on TikTok right now for a church that I preached in earlier this year, about 6 months ago. And it was a pastor who was having lots of relationships in addition to his wife with women within the congregation. And so I say that to say,
he didn't have your policy.
He
had your policy.
He need a policy. We're being honest, he need a policy and a deacon board. But I say that to say, I'm watching this man. I'm not friends with him. They invited me to come preach, and I preached. I'm watching him lose everything, and I'm gonna go here because of something he did. And it ain't about choosing sides, because there's too many women done come up and said, right? And so the other piece that, if we get really real about, if we kind of take this conversation full circle of dating and back to public figure, my congregation went from 40 people to over 400 physically, to another 250 online on Sunday, to we touch 1,000 people in a 24-hour period. I am not willing in this season of my life to risk what I've built You can call that pride. You can call that what? Like, that's real talk.
Yeah.
I have given my blood, my sweat, my tears
Yes.
for 15 years to build something. And in all respect, because you're going to find that's how I do, I got a payroll to meet, which means if I fumble the ball, it's not just my life that is affected. It is the lives of people who put food on their table from working under my leadership. So that brings it back to, that's why there's a policy, because we have to set a standard so that the glory of the Lord does not leave this house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we fought to get it in here.
And that's the thing. And I think that's the recognizing. And you said you stand on the principle because so that the glory of the Lord does not leave the temple.
Yeah.
And if we all held to that, we would operate differently within the body of Christ. Even, and we're not going to go because that could be a whole nother podcast, but just talking about just stuff that just happened.
Yeah.
How did you all transition though from specifically, and I'm talking about you personally, not the congregation, but from being married to being single?
Oh, child, we need a whole other podcast.
we need another podcast?
on that
Two.
one.
Go ahead.
Well, you know, y'all just actually made me think about this whole idea of divorce, which may be another podcast. Yeah, maybe bringing them back to talk about divorce, and especially. You gotta go now.
I called a colleague for it. I said, who of my colleagues would have an NDA? I said, and she said, girl, you know I do. And she said it right on over. Amen. Get you some friends.
Yeah. But I just thought about you talking about divorce and the number of divorces that potentially could be happening from conversations. Is this a conversation that we need to we've got to have, because there are many things that people are not talking about. And I always say this, because this is this is one of my liberal views, is, you know, when they got married in the Bible, they knew each other.
They knew each other.
They knew each other. That was marriage.
Yeah.
And so if we really put the emphasis on God in the marriage, a lot of times we look at our mate beforehand and be like, I knew I wasn't supposed to be with you. But how did you all transition? Because that's a big you're in a congregation with a spouse. Everybody sees you with this spouse.
And mine was a clergy.
And
it was a clergy
yours was a
person, right?
clergy.
In my case. I don't think your wife was, I don't know.
No.
I will say, let me say this. Shout out, they put this cam directly on, shout out to South Euclid United Church of Christ. Them my people all day, every day. So when I realized that my marriage had fallen apart on a Saturday night at 6 p.m., I took a couple of days. I was so thankful it was COVID, because I was a hot mess. I was a hot mess in the no one was in the sanctuary except the staff. So like, that was the favor of God on my life, because I don't, like, you know, there's a friend who does my makeup, and like, I would be like bawling my eyes out, and now it's time to get up. So she got to like run up and try to like bring the puffiness down and bring it down. And so I could get up and I could navigate that, because I didn't have to look at their faces. I'm just being honest about that. But I want to say what South Euclid United Church of Christ did that blessed my life. I sent out an email to the congregation. It was the one time people was kind of mad that they hadn't, you know, really solidified their membership, because they wanted this email, because we only sent it to ministers. You know, I didn't get the email. Did you go to new members class? Well, no, but I walked the aisle. Ain't got nothing to do with what's going on right here, right? Membership has its privileges.
That's a lesson, people. Membership has its privileges.
Right. But I wrote an email to my congregation, and I expressed to them that as their leader, I had made the decision. It was my choice, right? This is what I wanted. And then I asked of them, I said, and I work with a good friend, because I'm this person who's in PR, so I didn't just pray about it and write it. I prayed about it and sent it to somebody with a gift, okay? And then what we ultimately did was, she said, people are wondering, what should they do? What can they do for you? And the best thing you could do in this correspondence is tell them what to do, because if you don't tell them what to do, then they all start making up what to do, and that's going to be a problem. And she said, what do you want them to do? And I said, I want them to respect my privacy. I want them to not discuss this. And if for no other reason, I want you to not do these things because I have a child. And I'm asking you as a mother to help me protect my child. Now, you can say to church folks, don't talk. But let me tell you something.
Church folk gonna talk.
South Euclid United Church of Christ didn't talk. When my divorce finally became public, I'll never forget, Lord have mercy. I was at an event, and I was technically still married at the time. A person was there. And I shared with a very big public figure here, you know, we're divorced. What? And they said, my wife talks to 2 people in your congregation every single day. We had no clue. As I would get out in the community, people literally had no, like, I got to tell my own story.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, were there a few little messy pockets? Yeah, because that's par for the course, right?
Yes, yes.
But I'm talking about the average person in my congregation prayed for me,
Yes.
kept their head down, kept their mouth off of me and my family. And I am forever indebted, because that's not every congregation's
not at all.
story. But I want to name one of the things I really try to do at South Euclid is to remove myself from the pedestal.
Yeah.
So first of all, more than 50% at this point of America is divorced. So I'm now with the majority. So this is nothing new. That's number one. Number two, it's really a matter of I'm human.
Yeah.
It's hard enough. It's hard enough. Please don't make it harder for me. I remember going out on that Sunday after the email had gone out. I flew in a friend who is a musician because I wanted him to sing to help soothe me and kind of, you know, and he did, and it was great. He's like a brother to me. And I was able to navigate that. But I really want to say that my congregation honored that I'm human, that this is hard enough. And let us not be the ones who inflict injury to our own pastor. So I know it's not everybody's story, but I just want to say, shout out to South Euclid.
Yeah, and I think you, like you said, they recognize the humanity of you. They recognize the humanity of you.
And same thing for me. Emanuel, same thing.
Amen.
They were awesome during this time.
Because I didn't know till you just said it. You know, I mean, well, you were here, but you know what I'm saying.
You say, well, maybe he is divorced. He on those conversations about
you know. But it's true.
But no, they didn't. And like she said, it was pockets of people that you know going to be messy and but for the most part they were there. They supported me, and then even throughout the transition, there have been people who've been there for me, and again, that's the same for me. Shout out, I appreciate. I mean, love it, and it really also changed my relationship with them during that time, because again they got to see my vulnerability and stuff like that, which really was really good, because you come down just a little bit, you know. So
and let me say,
they understand.
It made me a better pastor, hands
Yes.
down, because I think about the things I said in my office as couples and people came before I went through
Yes.
divorce. I would never say those things.
No,
like,
I would not.
I was young. I didn't know.
Yeah.
You know, and you don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
But I just share that to say it has made me a better pastor. Now, what it has required is for me to preach with integrity. And by
Yes.
that, I simply mean for the sermons to not be directed towards my ex-spouse, for me to not use this as my opportunity to get the pockets straight. The pockets gonna do what the pockets gonna do, and real talk, pockets that left are circling back. So now it's
Yes.
very interesting that I'm now being required to pastor again
People who
pockets
had
of
something to say.
people.
Who
It's like
left.
God is very interesting.
Yeah, and God will
And
challenge
keep
us
my
like
integrity,
that.
right? The doors of the church are open, right? But you know,
For all.
for all,
Even
right?
you all who had so much to say about me.
Absolutely, but here you are. It's
So
okay.
would you all get married again?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
You know,
I'm
you've been
game,
answering
Doc.
these
I'm
questions.
game coach.
You've been answering these questions real
I
quick.
know, I know, no, because I'm clear. No, I'm good. But let me say this. Number one, my divorce was messy, so there's that piece. It's also the process of like coming out of that, like financially. I'm just being honest. Like it's a whole financial recover,
Yes,
baby.
it is.
Okay,
Yes,
all right.
it
So
is.
it's a huge adjustment. and I know this is where I'm being liberal, I'm probably gonna get some feedback on this, and that's okay. I would take me a life partner. I would take me someone, we travel. You live in your house, I live in mine. We can meet up in Rome.
Oh, you know they coming after you.
Come for me, I don't care. What's this? Because they loves me at South Euclid United Church of Christ, baby. Bless the Baptist.
But you know what? The older I get, that's the same
Let me
thing
tell you
that I
something.
say.
I
Yeah.
taught a workshop in Atlanta on this, not that, but on how now I'm watching older women in ministry who used to come down on shacking and come down on this, come down on that. I'm like, your money's steady now, huh? They be like, well, you got you a little point now. Yeah, because you got you a 401k.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you I'm not saying it's all about money, but you got your house
You
how you
understand.
like it. You
Yep.
got your stuff moving how you like it. And now to move someone in here or you uproot and move, you rethinking those things.
Yes.
So I need you to hear this. Someone to do life with, but to maintain healthy boundaries. Yeah, that's me. I'm not interested. I don't want somebody who lives local. I'm not interested in getting married. I'm good. And
Sorry, y'all Clevelanders.
I know,
She's off the
sorry.
market for you.
But hear me and hear me good. I'm a woman who knows what she wants.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's a
That's a
great
good thing. Yes.
So
It
if that's
is.
what you want and that's what I want, bet. If that's not
And I
what
always
you
say
want,
the only people we have to answer to is God. I
That
don't have
part.
to answer to you on anything that
There
I
you go. There you go. And the church is famous for telling
Yeah.
people what God. I love to say the church is the only place that has the longest list of what God won't do. God don't do that. God won't do that. God won't bless this. God won't bless that. I mean, and I'm just like, so either God can do what God wants to do or God can't. Because that's one of those things of like, you really can't have it both
You
ways.
can't have it both ways.
But for me, no, I am not. You've heard me say I am content. I love my singleness. I love to come and go. And like, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like last night, man, I came and I worked like the longest day. I was so tired. My son was sitting on the couch. And this was a real moment. Maybe it happened yesterday so I could have this. I'm sitting on my island, at my island. I'd have made a little charcuterie board because he had ate at his grandmother's earlier. I done pulled out my caviar because that's how I do, right? Put it on my little potato chips, right? Had my little charcuterie, do, right? And I was like, girl, who are you? And I was like, one I love. Like, I don't even recognize myself. This level of freedom, this come and go, do what I want, when I want, how I want. I love it for me. I am unrecognizable to myself. And the little girl me never would have thought that I'd be good and grown and big and bad. And like, this is what I like.
Yes.
I like fine things. I'm weird. And I've embraced that. I am weird. And I love it. I'm weird because Jesus was weird. Like when you begin to study that word weird, it's a compliment. I'm peculiar. I like what I like, how I like it when I move, when I do what I do. Like, no, I'm good. If you want to come alongside this wonderful party, let's go, right? But no, I ain't trying to make no permanent partner.
I love the confidence. I love the assuredness. And I think if more people got to that and knowing this is who I am, either you're going to accept it this way or you're not. But this is the way that I'm walking. This is what I'm talking. This is the way what I like, what I want to do. Yeah. Would you?
No, I would say I would, but again, with the caveat of hold on. I'm taking my time.
Yeah. Amen.
So no,
Amen.
I'm not out. Oh, you. What about
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
But definitely, yes, I'm open to it. But again, taking my time, making sure this works for both of us because, like you just said, when you go through divorce, especially when you trying to pay, everything that's involved with it, and people don't realize that part. Once you do that, it internally makes you more cautious before you do it again.
I hope what I say does not offend you. It's and I mean that because I know you talk about femininity on here. Studies say women don't die alone. Black women do not die alone. We got you could be a hospice, a sister a soror gonna call you and comb your hair. She's gonna check on you. You know, men can be more isolating, right? It's just kind of the way that we're all wired. And so I do see men as they get older say, "Oh, I kind of want to settle down." And so I'm just saying, but like when you really look at studies, like women and Black women in particular, we are not fighting for people in our lives.
Not for certain.
We have that. And so I'm not going to box God in that it has to look a certain kind of way, if you get where I'm coming from. Like, so those, and now I'm also only 43. So that could be a role in a part too for me. But like, I am so good right now. And I'm definitely not interested in nothing while my son is of still on my dime age.
Yes.
Right, till he graduate college. And that's out of respect for him, boundaries for him.
Boundaries.
You know, he's been clear, you know, you can't date nobody, Ma. You know?
And single moms and sons is a different
girl.
story. I will tell anybody
Girl.
with my brother, and we gonna kind of close. But as we get to our close, and this conversation could go on and on.
It's good.
But if you had to give advice to a young pastor that's dating, give me just something really quick that you say to that young pastor.
Make sure that they get to know you, and first before they get into what you do. Also, I would say make sure you got clarity, and make sure that again that there is, as you move along, that they respect and they support what you do.
My advice would be very similar. First of all, know who you are to make sure they want you. Because I want to say we got a lot of pastors who don't know who they are.
Yes.
Yep.
So you're more invested in the image than who you are individually, and so that's right.
good.
So the person is drawn to the image.
Yes.
Right. I would say, since I'm with my Baptist, be very sure. You gotta say it twice now.
Yeah, you gotta say it twice.
Very sure. Because I think that, you're putting a lot of stock in someone who, number one, will not be the same person down the line. Who you, if we go with marriage or date, who you start with will not be who you end with. So can you trust the evolution of them?
That's powerful.
Yes.
That is so powerful that I don't think we even think about that. And I know that has been a problem in many marriages, the evolution.
And so to add to that last point, I have often said that if I ever remarried or had a life partner, whatever it might be, that what I think these types of relationships miss the most is that you don't have evolutionary check-ins. So we come to a season where we really recognize, you're not the same, I'm not the same. Here it is. Your needs aren't what they used to be. My needs aren't what they used to be. Is this still working? We don't give growth and evolution to our original covenant. The covenant is between you and the person and God.
Right.
All of you, God has remained the consistent, but you all are not the same. And so how does that work? And it has to be, hear me, a constant renegotiation for longevity. Because in the spirit of statistics, I be reading. I do have a degree from Princeton and Spelman.
I like readers on this show. I like readers.
I'll share this. They asked Oprah, last point, of course, I know we got to go. I never forgot this. They asked Oprah why she never married Stedman. And she said, he asked. He asked, and I initially was going to say yes. She said, but when I sat and I thought about it, she said, us being, at that time, boyfriend and girlfriend, now I think they use the language of partners, worked really well for us. She said, but the minute we would become married, he was expecting a wife and I was expecting a husband. And with those titles come unspoken expectations. She said, and so I was imposing on myself that I would not be a successful wife if dinner wasn't on the table by 6 p.m. But as long as we were dating, we could order food out. I said, this woman is brilliant. Because one of the things I now start with in premarital is, what does that title mean to? So for me, what does it mean to be a wife? And to him, what are you looking for in a wife? Because if you can't match, and then once I get in it, I might be like, oh no, I don't want to be the type that got dinner on the table every night at 6 no more. I want to sit at the island with a little charcuterie board. Now on Sunday, I'm gonna throw that caviar and chips.
Thank you for joining us on Sanctified and Stilettos. You all know the tagline: we're saved and sexy intersect, and where we delve into conversations that deal with faith, femininity, and fearlessness. And so today we have had a great conversation about dating as pastors. And so I thank my guests for being with us. And I want to say, if you want to follow me on social media, please follow me on Instagram at Dr. HEB. That's DRHEB. Or you can follow me on Facebook at Heather E. Burton, HeatherEBurton.
Okay, Reverend Dr. David A. Cobb, Jr., pastor of the Emanuel Baptist Church, 7901 Quincy Avenue in Cleveland, Ohio, where we'd love to see you. Also, if you can't be there in person, you can catch us online at Emanuel Baptist Cleve, that's CLEVE.org, or you can join us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram.
Courtney Clayton Jenkins, senior pastor and teacher of South Euclid United Church of Christ. I am Rev CCJ on all platforms, so go ahead and check me out. If you just type that in, you'll find me anywhere and everywhere. Can't wait to bless you in this walk. And shameless plug, I have a book coming out in September, and so I hope you will pick that up on Amazon. It is The Bible in 52 Weeks for Black Women, and it is coming out through Callisto Publishing. So check it out, and hopefully I'll see you in September. Peace.
Thanks you again for joining Sanctified and Stilettos, and we'll see you next time.